I have a bunch of different addictions. I have a gambling addiction that's real severe, but it was actually my drug addiction that brought me to the treatment center. I'm 27 now. I was 17 in my first instance of drugs. It doesn't matter if it's drugs or gambling or sex or alcohol. It doesn't matter what it is. I cannot have enough of anything because I want to have it all. And I want to have it now. I don't want to try and work for it. I don't want to beg for it. I just want to get it, and that's it. And then when I have it, I feel great, and I don't worry about the consequences after. I've been out of reality, kind of, and not dealing with the home issues anyway. And I knew that I needed to get better. Otherwise, I can't deal with my family, and I can't support my family and take care of them the way that I should and need to. It's going to be a daily struggle, I know, 100%. It'll be a struggle forever to get clean.
My father was an alcoholic. He was, verbally and emotionally abusive. And I always swore, I'd never want to be like him. I was very rebellious in those early years, from 13 to 16. But what it was is that I was hurting deep down inside. I was really hurting. When I would drink, that gave me a sense of belonging that, I couldn't feel when I was straight.
When kids, say teenagers, start to drink, they'll either hate it and they'll never want to drink again because it'll make them sick, or they'll love it because it'll they'll just feel that this fills a void. I'd had a drinking problem for over 20 years, and my mom was depressed a lot, so that caused tremendous havoc on our family dynamics because my mom would be bedridden for days or weeks at a time until she was hospitalized, and had shock treatments repeatedly. And so out of that came a lot of shame, a lot of fear. Very early on, there was that cause and effect. Like, I could tell that I felt different. I could forget about things. I could forget about my mom and my dad. Who cares what time I got home? I didn't know how to be around my parents without drinking because it filled that void. It was like the depression was the only thing we had in common. Or my mom's sickness or my dad's anger, that's what we have in common.
I started drinking when I was about 12 years old. I had a wonderful family. I have a wonderful family. I had a good childhood. There was just something about me that when I drank, it clicked for me. And by the time I was 14 and a half, 15, that's when I really started to bump up the drug use. When I drank, it took me here, but that was never good enough. I always wanted to go higher, and I always felt that the next one would be better. I didn't feel that I was altering myself to be different. I felt that I was altering myself to be like other people.
Whenever the word addict or alcoholic would come up, it's like, no. I'm not one of those, right? That's impossible. I'm not like my father, but I was.
The drugs and alcohol were what made life bearable for me.
I do understand what it's like not to feel that inability to just get up and do things. I was constantly relapsing. Like, I would always try not to drink for a week, but then there would be it's terrible. You feel so, pissed off, mad, frustrated, and, hopeless with yourself, and also pissed off at other people because they don't have a problem.
I've kind of some issues with the last couple of days. It's like, you guys want to keep making me feel so good and tell me to bring up my self-esteem, and then you want me to write a list of all the things that I've done to all the other people on the planet, and all the wrong things that I've done and what I've lost and who I've abused and all that. And it's something I think I didn't notice while I was using, or wasn't as aware of when I was using, and they made me very aware of that today, and I don't like to look at that. But I'm gonna do it, because it's part of recovery, right? So
But
sometimes looking at the real you sucks. Today, in the last couple of days, right, is now they're making us aware, or they're helping us to find out a way to become aware of what we've done. And now when I'm looking at it, it makes me sick. So for me to sit here and write down the things that I've done, the money that I've lost, the things that I've said, because of a fine white powder or a deck of cards, and I can't even find a way to say I'm sorry to my family like that. I can't even think of a way to say I'm sorry. Do I deserve recovery right now? Do I deserve to be able to come into a government-funded building and have everybody say, there, it'll be okay, Jen? Now love yourself and forgive yourself? I don't know. It's pretty tough. I never thought about it. I never gave it any thought at all. We had to write this letter to our addiction. It was just to sort of to say goodbye, or... There you go. I wrote it on August 28th, and this was when I was aware of exactly how I felt. I didn't go from head to pen to paper. I went from heart to pen to paper. Dear Addictions, you came into my life in many different forms and at different times. There are so many of you, it's hard to figure out why you're all here. Why you seem to have always played such a major role in my life, I'm not sure. At this stage, I'm ready to let you go. I'm not afraid of you anymore. As a group, you may think you can control me, but individually, it's a fair fight. I choose to fight you one-on-one as you come to me and present a challenge. As a group, you overcame me and locked me in your prison. Now I have escaped and I am free. The war has begun and already you are waving the white flag. You will become my prisoner and I will show you no mercy. My newfound faith in myself is the key to your cell that will never exist. So I'm not afraid of the addiction though. I'm like, if I can do this, if I can function every single day and just get through the day all by itself, I don't need the addiction. And I made a major association like that just a few days ago. I don't need it. So I know it's not gonna beat me. It can't. I've already won.
I was what you would term a fairly high-functioning person with an alcohol problem, you know, alcoholic, if you will, high-functioning alcoholic. In that I never lost my job. It never really impacted upon any job that I had. I never lost friends. I never, you know, my relationship was never, of course it was in jeopardy many, many times, but I'm still with my partner after almost 20 years. I see the ravages of alcohol on many people. You know, they may not have a home, or they may just be, they're out on the streets drinking, and you can see it out in the open. Well, I was never out in the open. I was within the confines of my own home. In 1984, I was at a really, in a bad space. In terms of my work, my drinking had really caught up with me. My relationship was in tatters, and I'd been struggling with depression for about 8 months. It was Sunday, May 23rd, and I'll never forget. It was about 6 o'clock. We were having another friend and her son coming over for dinner, and we were going to watch firecrackers across the street. You know, my friends, and they would be outside watching the fireworks, and I'd be coming in. So the next thing I knew, I was just violently ill, you know, downstairs in the bathroom downstairs, and then vaguely remember being in bed, and then the next thing I knew, it was the next morning. And I honestly, when I woke up the next morning, I didn't know if I was alive or dead. Like it was the most surreal feeling of being able to hear voices but not really know where they were coming from. I just know that if I hadn't stopped when I did, I might very well not be here today, because you just can't keep going on like that. You can't have blackouts and, you know, repeatedly, you know, have hangovers and that kind of thing without it being really serious.
When I became pregnant for the first time in my life, there was a hostage to my addiction. I'm completely incapable of parenting. I'm completely incapable of taking care of myself, never mind 5 children. I continued to use, and I continued to drink, and it was an absolute hellhole for my children. It was horrific for everybody, but especially for the children. Even my children and even my love for my children became a burden in a way, because this addiction was just so all-encompassing. And I remember thinking, you know, how much better off they would be without an addict for a mom, without a junkie for a mom. And it was the very first time in my life that I seriously considered killing myself.
When you're in that, you do get sicker. You know, the abnormal becomes normal. You'll never run up against anything like it. It's more powerful than love. I ran into the first boyfriend from when I first started using drugs and alcohol, and we ended up living together for 4.5 years. But what started to happen after about a year, the abuse started, and you know, I'd end up with a broken jaw, broken nose. My oldest son, who was 18 at the time, was here. And you know, he also was another hostage to all of this. What happened was he started getting really out of sorts, my partner, and my son had come in around 9 o'clock and I had usually left dinner on the stove, the leftovers, and he was getting dinner and my partner was in the front room and started, you know, yelling at him. And so, you know, I went outside and I, you know, was looking at my son, and, you know, I saw him standing on the passenger side of the car with the door open crying. And it was very humid that evening. It was Labor Day weekend, you know, and these big, huge raindrops had just started to fall. And suddenly the back door swung open and my partner came running out, and now this time he's got the bar off the weightlifting bench. And he went directly for my son, but my son, I guess, quick thinking, thought jump in the car, because if he had ran, he just would have caught him and probably hit him with a bar. And I tried to stop him, like pull him back, and he just had the strength of like, you know, 20 men. He threw me like a rag doll. And he ran back to the car and started hitting it again. And at one point he broke the window to the passenger side and opened the door and started hitting my son with the bar. And you know, I tried stopping him again. He threw me and he went back at him and he's hitting him, and he stopped suddenly and he dropped the bar and he said, I think the son of a bitch stabbed me. He came back and he was hugging me, and when he took a step back, I saw this mark on my shirt. And he started going down fast. And we go to St. Joe's, I guess it was to go through the motions, and they said that, you know, the doctor told me there wasn't anything they could do for him, and that he was dead. Then they charged my son with second-degree murder. I guess that's what they mean by jails, institutions, and death, you know? We don't just die of you know, overdoses or alcohol poisonings. We go in different ways, but it's always related. For addicts and alcoholics, it's not until we are in like so much emotional pain that this little window opens up, and that's reality. And what started to happen was the delusions were going away and the window was getting bigger and bigger, you know, and the drugs weren't working anymore. Everybody had written me off, all my family members. One day when I was at the cemetery, they came in with the police and they took all the children. My daughter, she suffered a lot for my disease. I could hear it in her tone that the door was closing, you know, and that even though she was so young and meant so much to me, she was ending our relationship. It was a matter of survival for her. And I just couldn't let that happen.
I ended up at the Jean Tweed Centre actually on the Victoria Day weekend of 1999, and it was what they call the bottoming out, or what as I refer to as a bottoming out, and I just knew that was it. Thankfully, I realized that I just can't drink again.
I cried for the first day, and it's really strange because I hadn't cried since I was about 12, 13. Like, I didn't cry. You didn't cry where I came from. The world I lived in, you didn't cry, because if you cried, that was weakness, and weakness was, you know, you were just totally vulnerable.
I thought, these people, they don't know me. They don't know what I've been through and what my life has been like. But the reality of it was, they were just like me.
To go into this place full of strangers and to actually start talking was something that was quite remarkable to me. And I remember leaving that meeting, and I remember distinctly feeling that I wanted to go back, that there was hope for me in those rooms.
And this woman spoke. Like, what she was talking about was very similar, and the feelings she was talking about I could totally relate to. And I was looking at her and I thought, she looked healthy. Like, and she had this calm in her eyes, you know, and this confidence. Like, she had what I wanted. I wanted integrity. We have to know other people that are like us, that have gone through this, and a lot of them were willing to help me. They wanted to help me because they had been through the same thing.
I was tired of living the way I was, and I knew I was sick. And it was just such a horrible, horrible feeling to feel that every day and to have to rely on that every day and to hurt my family like that every day. On the last week before treatment, we were supposed to be sober. And then I lost my bag of cocaine, and I was worried because I was worried my son would find it. And I didn't want to admit to my husband that it was lost somewhere in the house, because then he'd know I had it. And then I bought more after just being at detox. But I had to ask him, have you seen it? Because if you picked it up, you know, I'm worried my 4-year-old might have it. And so I walked up to the entire room of people and said, guys, I dropped my coke. Did anybody find it? And my husband said, yeah, I found it. So he was refusing to give it to me. I said, if you don't give it to me, I'm going to leave to go get more. And that's going to be more dangerous because I'm going to find a house party, I'm going to find a crack house, I'm going to go there, and it could kill me. I begged and pleaded. I said, please, guys, I want treatment on the 19th. Don't make me leave, because I will leave. I have to leave to get it because I have to feed the monster inside. I have to feed the addiction. It's beating me. But I know I want to stay home where it's safe, and then I want to go to treatment on the 19th. So guys, even if I'm high right up to the 19th and you want to pour me out some tiny little lines just to keep me here, then please do that. And so they watched. They watched me do it. My whole family sat around my kitchen table and cried. And that is a major bottom. It wasn't a point of being fun and a party anymore. It was necessity, pure physical necessity. In week 1, when I first walked into the center, it was because I didn't want to die, right? I don't want to die. I'm afraid to die. If I continue down this path, I'll be dead, right? And although my life wasn't great and I wasn't happy, deep down, I didn't want to die, you know? I wanted to watch my kid grow up, and I wanted to, you know, experience the rest that life had to offer for me. I didn't want to cut it short. So, in week 3, now I want to live, and there's a big difference between not wanting to die and wanting to live. Just having to work through the the grief and the loss. The grief and the loss of finances, the grief and the loss of time that I spent with my family. I noticed my kid got freckles. Yeah, it's huge. You know, I just realized it, you know, and they're mine, right? He doesn't get them from his father, he gets them from me. And it's kind of a big deal, right? I'm like, you got something on your face, you know? Trying to wipe it off. I'm like, oh, Jesus, they're freckles, you know? That's cool, buddy. You got some freckles just like your mom, you know? It's good for me, you know? Something I wouldn't have noticed before.
That's where we get these principles on how to approach life. Because a lot of what recovery is about is clearing that wreckage from the past, because we caused a lot of damage, whether we want to admit to it or not.
Being a mother in sobriety meant I had to allow them to voice the pain they'd gone through and the fear.
As for my son, I still hope that maybe one day, like, we can do counseling together, you know, because he's still caught up, he's still back there, and that's what hurts so much. It's like I look at him and I see myself. Here was this sensitive young man that, you know, my disease had gotten to.
I am so happy to be in a situation where I can trust myself not to drink. That is so liberating for me.
That's the reality of it. Like, 1/3 dies, 1/3 recovers, and 1/3 goes insane. So which one did I want to be?
I have seen 2 or 3 women from the streets still on the streets, and I feel deep sadness for them. And I know what their life is like, and I can imagine how much worse it is now, because I know it doesn't get any better out there. You have to decide whether you want to be a mother, whether you want to be a daughter, whether you want to be a woman.
I wanted to go home to be with my husband and my son because I miss them, of course. But I was scared of just going in my own front door, felt foreign. For my whole life, really, I've been an addict. So I'm always looking at life through a major fog, a distorted piece of glass, right? And then that piece of glass is now removed. Nothing is the same. Nothing.